So looking at the problems for 6.1, doesn't really look like there's anything too scary. Maybe we'll do number 52. We're taking something like 66 and 2/3%, and they're asking us to change that percent to a fraction. Alright, so we're already at a mixed number. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the quick and easy thing. Remember I said any percent can be changed to a fraction just by putting it over 100. But that's not reduced. I mean, that's a fraction, but it's a really messy fraction. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the numerator, because right now it's a mixed number. We're going to change the numerator to an improper fraction and leave it over 100 and go from there. So 66 and 2/3 written as an improper fraction rather than a mixed fraction is 200 over 3 over 100. And that is a complex fraction. If you remember when we did complex fractions, it's one fraction over another, and 100 as a fraction is that. So we're going to take that and we'll do it over here in some empty space. 200, whenever we have a fraction divided by another one, remember we flip it over, we invert it, and multiply it. Okay, so when we're at this place, I can do a little bit of canceling. Cancel that, and that becomes a 2. And that becomes very easy 2 over 3, because these went away. And all we have is the 2 times the 1 and the 3 on the bottom, so 2/3. So 66 and 2/3% written as a fraction in lowest terms is 2/3. And now you can use it for math, because again, you cannot multiply and divide and all that with your percentages. You have to change it to a decimal or a fraction in order to actually use that. We can't take 66 and 2/3% times 5. That doesn't help us. But we can take 2/3 times 5. That's doable, and that gives us a good answer. And then if we want to change it back to a decimal, we can do that just by moving the decimal place 2 places over to the right, and we can change it back to a decimal after we've done the math. So a lot of times you'll find that you do that. You'll change your percent to a decimal or a fraction, do all the math that you need, and then you can change it back to a percentage once that's done if you're in need to do that. So this is number 68, and what they're asking us to do is change the fraction or mixed number to a percent. You always reduce once you're done, so that goes without saying. So 1 3/4. First of all, we have to change it to a decimal. You cannot change a fraction to a percent. You've got to change your fraction to a decimal and then change it to a percent just by moving the decimal places. So this is 1 3/4. So we're going to just bring down the 1 because we're not doing anything with that because it's already a whole number, but we're going to have to change 3/4 to a decimal. And when you do that, you end up with 0.75. So 0.75 is what's going to follow. So we just changed, we just changed the fraction to a decimal. The 1 in front of the fraction, nothing ever happens to it. So now we just change it to a decimal. Now all we have to do is change that decimal to a percentage. And again, in order to change a decimal to a percentage, we move the decimal over 2 places to the right. And the way that I remember that anyway is I want to put a percentage sign on this. So in order to put the percentage sign, I've got to move the decimal closer to the percentage sign. And so I'm going to move it to the right to put the percentage sign on. If I was taking the percentage sign off, I would take it away from the percentage sign, just like you're taking the percentage sign away from your number. So decimal goes away from the percentage sign when you want to take the percentage sign away. When you want to add the percentage sign, you move the decimal closer to the percentage sign. So, therefore, my answer to 1 3/4 written as a percent is 175%. As I look at the story problems, or the applying the concepts, not really there that looks too scary. 74. According to Pew Research, a non-political organization that provides information on the issues, attitudes, and trends shaping. Okay, that's just a bunch of stuff. All right, so you've got your little pie there that you've all seen before, and over on the right it gives you your legend, or what the different colors represent. So those that pay bills by check is 54%, online is 28%, cash is 15%, and other is 30%. Whatever in the world that other is, I don't know, maybe they're paying their bills in beads or something. Okay, so those are your percentages that you're going to use for your A, B, and C. So A, convert each percent to a fraction. So you're taking 54, 28, 15, and 3% and changing it to a fraction. So remember, first of all, you've got to change it. You take the percent off and put it over 100, and there's your fraction. Then all you have to do is reduce. Convert B is convert each percent to a decimal. So you're just taking like your 54% and changing it to a decimal. Now remember, you're taking this away, so you move your decimal away. So it becomes 0.54 to change it to a decimal. C says, about how many times more likely are you to pay a bill with a check than by electronic or online method? So you've got a 54% by check, and electronic or online, you're at 28%. So they're wondering how much bigger is that number than that number. Approximately, about how many times more likely are you going to pay with a check compared to electronic? So the numbers, just looking at it, is about twice as likely. So 2 times more chance that people are going to pay by check than pay by online, which, that number's probably changed a lot. I probably write 1 check every 6 months because I pay everything online right now. So that number might be higher, but that's pretty much it as far as the story problems go. Just take your time. Look, especially, and let me remind you on the story problems, look at what they're asking for. Most people make mistakes on story problems because they get in too much of a hurry and they don't answer the question correctly, or they just look at it and say, oh, I don't know. Story problems are hard, but just because things are hard doesn't mean you don't do them. It means there's a dragon there for you to slay, and I know that's kind of a silly concept, but it's one I use regularly. You don't learn anything unless you learn how to do the hard stuff. So don't just skip over the story problems. Take your time and think through and try to get those down. Okay, so that's lesson 6.1.